This is Kurtop, and these are 100 places where archaeologists stopped excavations without explanation. It existed. Until recently, scientists believed that the grand project of building the Assyrian capital Dur-Sharrukin, Khorsabad, was left half-finished after the death of King Sargon II. However, new geophysical studies prove the opposite. The city was completed and was actively functioning. Archaeologists used the magnetometry method, which allowed them to discover the remains of an impressive 127-room villa, probable royal gardens, and water features, as well as other large structures. All these discoveries indicate that outside the main palace, Khorsabad was a thriving center. Conceived by Sargon II himself in 713 BC as the fortress of Sargon, the city did not fade into oblivion after his death. New evidence contradicts the long-held belief of an unfinished project and reveals the hidden life of the ancient capital. Work resumed in 2017 after the territory was liberated from the ISIS group. Under the guidance of the French Archaeological Mission, specialists used a high-precision magnetometer that allows them to visualize underground structures without expensive excavations. It turned out that Khorsabad, contrary to long-standing doubts, served as a full-fledged capital of Assyria. And now, modern discoveries reveal even more about the scale and wealth of the ancient empire. Noah's Ark found. According to the Bible, Noah's Ark saved people and animals from the Great Flood. And now, 5,000 years later, researchers have once again turned their attention to one of the most mysterious places, the Drupinar Formation in Turkey. This 163-meter structure matches the biblical description of the legendary vessel, surprisingly well in size. Scientists from Istanbul Technical University and Ağrı İbrahim Çeçen University have been studying the area since 2021. A recent analysis of 30 soil samples revealed clay, marine deposits, and mollusk remains, dating back about 3,550 years. This suggests that the region did indeed experience a major flood. The formation is only 30 kilometers from Mount Ararat, where the Bible says the ark rested after the flood. Its size also matches the biblical description. The estimated length of the ark is 157 meters, while the Drupinar site measures 163 meters. However, many geologists are skeptical of the hypothesis. They believe that the Drupinar site is just a natural formation. Despite this, the discovery continues to attract interest and new research. Life in the meteorite. Researchers studying a meteorite found on the island of Sri Lanka claimed that it is not just a stone fragment from space, but a potential artifact of extraterrestrial origin. The analyses conducted revealed the presence of fossilized microscopic algae, which, according to scientists, may be evidence supporting the panspermia hypothesis, the idea that life spreads throughout the universe with the help of asteroids and comets. These discoveries have generated widespread interest as they could confirm the theory of the existence of life beyond Earth. However, the results have been criticized by the scientific community. Some experts argue that the discovered fossils are too similar to terrestrial microorganisms that live in fresh water. The possibility of contamination of the meteorite by terrestrial life forms during its time on Earth's surface also remains a serious argument against the hypothesis of the find's extraterrestrial origin. People of an unknown civilization. In the tropical forests of Brazil, in the state of Rondônia, archaeologists captured rare footage. These are people from the isolated Masako tribe. This tribe, discovered in the 1990s, strictly avoids contact with the outside world and carefully guards its land by setting deadly traps made of wooden spikes. These spikes are so strong that they can puncture tractor tires. The Masako are one of 28 tribes in the Amazon that are completely cut off from civilization. Scientists installed cameras in the jungle to study them without intrusion. Researcher Al Geyser has been observing the tribe since 1992, and thanks to his work, deforestation on their territory has been stopped. Early attempts to contact isolated peoples often ended tragically due to outbreaks of diseases. That's why the Masako rejected any offerings, tools, dishes, weapons. They left only sharp spikes at meeting places, warning outsiders that intrusion was unwelcome. After contact ceased and their lands were protected, the tribe's population increased. In the 1990s, about 90 people lived here. Now there are 200 to 250 people. Scientists mapped their trails and camps and recorded their nomadic farming techniques using satellites. The tribe burns the savanna and then moves there during the rainy season. Masako is different from other tribes because of their long bows, which can be up to 3 meters. Anthropologists still don't understand how they use them to shoot. Their language is unique and not understood even by other indigenous peoples. Researchers note that the number of Masako is growing, which means sooner or later they will come into contact with civilization. But history shows that such contacts rarely end well.
Tiara Saitafierna.
For many years, the Louvre proudly displayed a golden tiara that supposedly belonged to the Scythian king Saitaphernes. The inscription on the artifact indicated that it was presented to the king by the inhabitants of ancient Greek Olbia, and it seemed quite credible. However, behind its brilliant appearance was one of the most notorious hoaxes in the history of archaeology. The story began in 1894 in Odessa when 2 antique dealers, the Gokman brothers, convinced a talented jeweler, Israel Rukamovsky, to make a diadem in the ancient Greek style for their archaeologist friend. Rukamovsky, not knowing ancient mythology, relied on illustrations from the books given to him. The resulting masterpiece, weighing half a kilogram, looked like a genuine artifact. Scenes from the Iliad, carefully engraved figures, and a solemn inscription praising the king. The Gokmans sold the item to the Louvre at a profit, where it was bought for 200,000 francs. The deal was made, as people later joked, on April 1, 1896. However, soon, some archaeologists, particularly Adolf Furtwängler, began to doubt the authenticity of the artifact. The Louvre, however, claimed the criticism was due to envy and political motives. The truth was revealed only in 1903 when Rukamovsky learned that his creation had become a museum relic. He came to Paris, personally reproduced a fragment of the diadem, and proved that it was a modern forgery. The Louvre had no choice but to admit its mistake. Afterward, the tiara entered the Hall of Forgeries, making Rukamovsky famous. His works became sought after, and the tiara incident served as a major lesson for museums worldwide. Icy ruins under the snow. We are used to thinking that the Arctic is a place ruled only by icy emptiness, lifeless and devoid of any traces of civilization. But what if that's not the case? What if beneath the thick glaciers there are not just traces of long-lost peoples, but entire lost cities? Satellite studies in recent years have led to the discovery of anomalous shapes beneath the ice crust, which may indicate ancient ruins hidden deep within the northern depths. According to some scientists, these cities may be much older than the earliest known civilizations such as Mesopotamia, Egypt, and ancient India. All these peoples could simply be a continuation of something greater and more mysterious than we can imagine. How is that possible? How could it happen that such cities are hidden under a multi-kilometer layer of ice? Today, these anomalies are still at the level of hypotheses, but each new study only deepens the mystery. Satellite images taken in the most remote corners of the planet show strange shapes and lines that resemble the structure of buildings, streets, or even entire cities. Are these glaciers not just barriers, but burial sites of ancient civilizations? Ice caps that conceal not only climate changes, but also forgotten epics of humanity. Amazingly, it's possible that these cities fell victim to global catastrophes that preceded the ice ages. After all, is there anything older than what is preserved in eternal ice? This question worries scientists more than ever, and perhaps if we unravel the mystery hidden beneath centuries-old ice, we will reconsider not only the history of our civilizations, but also our very understanding of how our world developed. $1 million. Who will decipher the ancient script? The script of the ancient Indus Valley civilization remains undeciphered to this day. Recently, Indian official Mudwell Karunanidhi Stalin offered $1 million for their decipherment. According to the Hindustan Times, this impressive reward is meant to inspire archaeologists, linguists, and cryptographers. The head of the state of Tamil Nadu pointed out that over centuries of research, no one has made progress in understanding these mysterious signs, which are presumably related to the Tamil language. The strange symbols of the Indus civilization, discovered back in 1920 by Sir John Marshall, remain an unsolved mystery. It was at that time that Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro were excavated, but the key to their script still has not been found. Stone spheroids aged 1.4 million years. In the 1960s, archaeologists in northern Israel discovered an unusual find. Almost 600 stone spheres in an area dating back 1.5 million years. A recent analysis of 150 of these spheres showed that they were created by our ancestors. This discovery suggests that earlier humanoid beings sought to create symmetry and were interested in craftsmanship. The use of modern technologies made it possible to accurately measure the angles and curvature of the sphere's surfaces, as well as determine their center of mass. The analysis showed that the spheroids represent a complex technology, indicating the high cognitive abilities and skills of early Acheulean humans. Seemingly ordinary stone balls, yet how much can they tell us about our ancestors? 1.5 million years ago, our ancestors had a completely different way of thinking. That's why creating such artifacts back then was considered a huge achievement.
Мумифицированная мама-подросток.
Archaeologists have re-examined the mummified remains of a young mother who died in childbirth more than 1,500 years ago and discovered shocking details. 2 fetuses were found in the pelvic area and in the chest. This discovery is both astonishing and horrifying at the same time. The mummy of a teenage girl who died during childbirth in ancient Egypt was found in the Karga Oasis at the El Bagawat Cemetery in 1908. The body was treated with salt, which is consistent with the ancient Egyptian practice of mummification. At first, archaeologists assumed that the girl died from complications during childbirth. However, a CT scan revealed a second fetus in the chest cavity, indicating a twin pregnancy. It was especially disturbing to discover that one of the fetuses was missing its head. During the investigation, it was found that the baby's head was stuck in the mother's pelvis, which led to its decapitation. This is the first known case in Egypt. It is assumed that the embalmers might not have known about the twins and forgot to remove the second fetus. This study highlights the dangers of pregnancy and childbirth in that era. The ancient Egyptians treated childbirth with deep respect, as can be seen from the spells against twin pregnancies. Alien ecosystem. On the remote Puna de Atacama Plateau in the Atacama Desert, located at an altitude of over 3,650 meters on the border of the Andes, Argentina, and Chile, archaeologists found a unique ecosystem with crystal-clear lagoons surrounded by salt flats. In this region, it rarely rains, and the sun creates extreme conditions. In April of last year, geologist Brian Hynek and microbiologist Maria Farias, while studying satellite images, discovered these lagoons and went there. Despite the difficulty of the journey, the researchers discovered 12 lagoons with a total area of 10 hectares surrounded by barren mountains. Under the water were green stromatolite mounds, a microbial community that forms massive fossils. These formations resemble the stromatolites of Earth's Archean era, when there was almost no oxygen in the atmosphere. Hynek believes that this lagoon may be one of the best examples of early signs of life on Earth. In the Atacama lagoons, the formations consist mainly of gypsum, a mineral often found in fossil stromatolites. Hynek noted that the conditions in the lagoon resemble those of ancient Earth. Lithium will be extracted in this area, so the unique ecosystem is likely to be destroyed. Entrance to the underground ecosystem. In central Vietnam, there is a place that even science has not yet reached. Son Dung Cave, the largest on Earth, is more than 6 kilometers long, with a volume of 38 million cubic meters. To understand the scale, an entire block of skyscrapers could easily fit inside, but the main thing is not the size. The main thing is that inside this cave, there is a separate ecosystem, its own river, lakes, jungles, stalactites tens of meters long, plants, insects, microorganisms, many of which may be unknown to science. Light doesn't penetrate there. It has its own air, humidity, temperature, pressure. Everything is enclosed inside. It's as if the planet decided to create its own reserve outside of history. And what's interesting is that we still don't know where this cave ends. The far end hasn't been explored. Maybe there's another chamber further on, another biospheric bubble, or even a completely separate evolutionary path that developed parallel to ours. The first Bronze Age fortress of its kind. In the Romanian forests of Neams County archaeologists discovered an ancient fortress about 5,000 years old, and modern LiDAR technology helped them do it. Thanks to drones equipped with laser scanners, it was possible to see through the dense vegetation and get a clear image of the structure that had been hidden from human eyes for centuries. The fortress dates to the transition from the Neolithic to the Bronze Age, when people began building fortified settlements. LiDAR revealed that it was a well-designed and powerful structure. Moats hundreds of meters long, earthen ramparts, and a strategically advantageous location on high ground all point to substantial expertise and organized labor among the ancient builders. Only with the help of modern technology can we truly understand the scale and structure of ancient monuments. These are not just ruins. They are traces of a complex and sophisticated civilization that we are only beginning to rediscover. The most secretive company on Earth. Attempts to resurrect woolly mammoths raise many questions. Scientists around the world believe that attempts to resurrect ancient giants are kept under the strictest secrecy. The people involved in this work do not disclose any details, which seems suspicious. The greatest progress in this field is being made by the American company Colossal Biosciences. They managed to insert several mammoth genes into the DNA of rodents and produce woolly mice. The next step is editing the genome of elephants to create a hybrid that is as close to a mammoth as possible. However, even if the experiment is successful, questions arise about the survival of such animals in the modern environment. The North has changed, and their return could have an unpredictable impact on the ecosystem. One of the project's researchers admitted that cloning is a topic that's easy to get funding for. This raises doubts. Is the revival of mammoths really possible, or is it just a scientific myth used to attract funding? Are these findings really 300 million years old? From time to time, miners find strange artifacts in coal seams that apparently were created by intelligent beings. This raises uncomfortable questions for science, because the age of these layers is estimated at 300 million years. How could objects that were clearly made by human hands end up there? After all, at that time, the Earth was inhabited only by giant insects and the first reptiles, and there were no humans, dinosaurs, let alone advanced technologies. However, the discoveries continue to amaze. In 1912, an iron kettle was extracted from a coal seam in Oklahoma, and in 1851, a vase made of zinc and silver was discovered in Massachusetts, with the rock it was found in being 534 million years old. In Russia, a metal rod resembling a gear rack was found, made of aluminum with a magnesium alloy. Its origin is even more mysterious. Aluminum was only discovered in 1822, but the coal in which it was found is over 300 million years old. Scientists found that the metal was infused with carbon, which confirms its incredible age. But if that's the case, who made it? Some believe that these findings are traces of a vanished civilization that existed long before us, but was wiped from the face of the planet by a global cataclysm. Others suggest that the objects could have been left by aliens, or even time travelers. Skeptics, in turn, are convinced the objects might have been left by aliens or time travelers if the theory is correct, that coal formed just a few thousand years ago from deep gases and pressure, not millions. If so, then the artifacts may turn out to be not so ancient after all. A landing site for UFOs. Gary Dixon, a 62-year-old resident of Flint, Wales, was driving to Llangollen when his attention was drawn to a 15-meter white round disc that was slowly spinning on the surface of the River Dee. He was so intrigued by this unusual object that he decided to walk several kilometers to take a closer look at it. The disc was perfectly round and was spinning counterclockwise, creating the impression of a mysterious natural phenomenon. Gary, who had planned to spend the winter day in Llangollen, was so fascinated by what he saw that he stayed to watch it for about half an hour. According to his observations, the disc made one rotation per hour. Ice discs, as it turns out, are not uncommon. This natural phenomenon is observed all over the world. Scandinavia and North America. The first recorded observation of an ice disk was in 1895 in the United States on the Mianus River in Connecticut. In recent years, such natural formations have attracted attention due to their impressive size. For example, in January 2019, an ice disk 100 meters wide was discovered on the Presumpscot River in Maine. But an even more impressive case occurred in Canada, where a 200-meter-wide ice disk was spotted on the Talson River and captured by satellites. These unique ice formations have received different names: ice circles, frying pans, and carousels, seated burials, and a children's necropolis. In the French city of Dijon, archaeologists have discovered a unique burial of the Gauls that is more than 2,000 years old. The unusual thing about the find is that all the deceased are sitting facing west. This rare ritual is known from only a few sites in France and Switzerland. In the garden of an old monastery, archaeologists came across 13 burials. The deceased are sitting with their hands on their torsos and their legs arranged asymmetrically. The burials are dated to around 450 to 25 BC. Researchers suggest that these graves may have contained priests, chiefs, or members of the same family. Next to these burials, a children's necropolis from the 1st century AD was found, where 22 infants were buried, many of whom did not live even a year. In wooden coffins, as evidenced by the nails found, coins and ceramics were also discovered in the graves, likely as burial offerings. However, part of the cemetery was destroyed due to agricultural work. The reason for the seated burial remains a mystery. One theory is connected to the belief in the afterlife. It is possible that the deceased were meant to enter the afterlife in a special posture. Other researchers believe that this is part of a spiritual practice. The posture could have symbolized meditation or eternal rest.
Подтверждением этого служат
Many figurines have been found in different parts of Europe. Remains of a new human species. At an archaeological site between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem in Israel, international researchers discovered mysterious skull fragments that may belong to an unknown population of Homo. The remains discovered in 2021 may belong to Nesher Ramla Homo, who lived in the region 140 to 120,000 years ago. According to scientists, this population exchanged genes and culture with Homo sapiens. The skull fragments include a parietal bone with archaic features that are atypical for Homo sapiens or Neanderthals, and a lower jaw with archaic characteristics. Scientists suggest that Nesher Ramla Homo could have been an intermediate form between Homo sapiens and Neanderthals. According to paleoanthropologist Marta Lahr from Cambridge University, this discovery is significant because of its location and age. If this discovery is confirmed, it could explain the origin of other findings, such as Lady Taboon, discovered in 1932. Some scientists, however, express doubts, suggesting other explanations, including the possibility that the fragments belonged to Denisovans, the lost city where gold was mined. In the vicinity of Prague, archaeologists have discovered a multi-layered settlement that combines artifacts from the Neolithic, the Latin culture, as well as the Middle Ages. More than 9,000 objects have been found, which led to the suspension of road construction. The earliest finds date back to the end of the 6th millennium BC, 8 longhouses, stone tools, and a workshop for processing polished stone. People lived here even later, up to the 5th century BC, as evidenced by 10 semi-subterranean houses from the Hallstatt and Latin periods. Among other artifacts, archaeologists discovered exquisite ceramics, a bronze ornament, as well as a handle from a drinking vessel that was probably brought from the Adriatic. All this indicates the existence of trade connections with southern regions. Scientists believe that nobles lived in the settlement who had access to rare resources. In addition, researchers discovered several dozen round pits from the 13th century, which they believe are related to gold prospecting or mining. A large medieval gold mine was located nearby. The findings span several eras at once. A half-ton find from space. A massive metal ring with a diameter of over 2.5 meters and weighing almost half a ton fell near a Kenyan village. The Kenyan Space Agency suggests that this fragment could have been part of a launch vehicle that did not burn up upon re-entry into the atmosphere. Local residents noticed how the object flared up at high altitude and glowed before it fell to the ground. Such situations are extremely rare, since most space debris usually burns up or lands in the ocean. This incident reminded people of the consequences of the 60-year era of space exploration and made them fear the possibility of debris falling again. Ancient calendars in the USA At Castle Rock Pueblo on the Mesa Verde Plateau in the United States, where Colorado and Utah meet, archaeologists made a remarkable discovery. In an area known for its unusual rock formations and ancient petroglyphs, scientists discovered many new rock carvings. The new stone engravings, which are hundreds of years old, could change our understanding of the culture and history of this region. Archaeologist Radoslav Polanco from Jagiellonian University said that at an altitude of about 800 meters above the known settlements, numerous lines and spirals engraved on the walls were discovered. The spirals, which reach up to 1 meter in diameter, may have been used as calendars to mark important dates and for astronomical observations. These findings have the potential to fundamentally change our perception of this era. The Pueblo people led an agricultural lifestyle and were engaged in making baskets and mats. Geoglyphs depicting cats. In Peru, archaeologists have discovered 29 previously unknown geoglyphs. These ancient earth drawings found near the city of Ica depict cats and human figures. Researchers note that the geoglyphs date back to the period between 300 BC and 100 AD, which corresponds to the time of the Nazca cultures. With the help of drones, archaeologists managed to spot 10 geoglyphs with cat figures measuring 17 by 12 meters and 8 images of cats measuring 37 by 13 meters. The remaining images depict anthropomorphic figures. Scientists believe that, for the ancient inhabitants of Paracas, cats were associated with water and fertility, and they worshipped them as deities. In 2020, a 37-meter-long cat figure, over 2,000 years old, was discovered on the Nazca Plateau. You see, cats were loved and valued at the same time not only in ancient Egypt. Medieval Devil's Curse. In Germany, archaeologists made a unique discovery during the construction of the town hall in Rostock. At the site of a former cesspit next to a 14th century house, which is considered one of the most beautiful in northern Germany, a 15th century plaque with a curse was discovered. The text on the plaque is written in Gothic script, which was common from the 12th to the 17th century. Engraved on it are the words Satan, Stoki, Beelzebub, Enric, Berit, addressed to Taliki and Hinrich, Henry. Such curse tablets made from thin sheets of lead were popular during the Greco-Roman period. They were used to appeal to gods, spirits, or the dead with requests to influence people or objects. This find in Rostock is especially rare because it mentions Beelzebub, another name for the devil. Such curses could be used to break up relationships because of unrequited love, jealousy, or the desire to bring misfortune to the people mentioned in the curse. A 15-million-year-old fossil, Emily Bezdik, a volunteer at the Calvert Marine Museum, discovered a unique fossil of a dolphin-like creature on a beach in Maryland, USA, that lived about 15 million years ago. The discovery was made during a walk on the beach, where the woman found a part of a skull that was 76 cm long and weighed about 23 kilocort. Stephen Groff, a museum staff member, studied the fossil and identified it as belonging to an extinct species of marine animals similar to dolphins that lived in the sea covering Maryland millions of years ago. These creatures had an extended rostrum for hunting and reached lengths of 3.5 to 4.5 meters. They lived during the Miocene epoch, 12 to 20 million years ago. The reasons for their extinction remain unknown. The fossilized skull will be displayed at the Calvert Marine Museum, where scientists will continue to study it. When the Sahara was an ocean, now it seems lifeless. Endless sand, sun-scorched rocks, and rare caravans. But millions of years ago, the Sahara was completely different. It was an ocean. The Tethys Ocean was vast, warm, and inhabited by ancient creatures, ammonites, sea urchins, corals, and giant reptiles. All of this lived where today only lizards struggle to survive. Geologists have found traces of deltas, riverbeds, and shorelines. Everything here tells us that water once splashed in this place, but the ocean disappeared, and a new story began in its place. Hundreds of thousands of years later, people settled on this land. Some of the most ancient people whose name still echoes through the sands, the Berbers, or as they call themselves, the Amazigh, descendants of those who survived climate change, the disappearance of rivers, and the drying up of lakes. They stayed when others left. Their rock paintings in Tassili Najar are a true archive of historical memory. People hunting with bows, celebrations, scenes of love and war, even images of beings with rounded helmets, as if from another reality. Some believe it's an allegory. Others see it as proof of contact with another intelligence. But the essence is the same. When the Sahara had not yet come to life, the Berbers already knew how to tell their stories. They knew where to find water, how to survive when the days are scorching and the nights are freezing. They ruled Numidia, traded with Rome, and fought with Egypt. And then they disappeared from the map, but not from the land. The Arab conquest pushed them out of the cities into the desert and mountains, but their culture survived. To this day, in remote villages, the Berber language can be heard, and memories thousands of years old are kept alive. And in the desert itself, traces of an even more ancient past remain: stone mushrooms. At first glance, they are just rocks, but if you look closely, the shape is striking. A massive cap of hard stone rests on a thin, eroded stem. These formations are the result of differential erosion. The wind, carrying sand, polishes the soft rocks for years, leaving the hard ones standing. Each of these mushrooms is like a marker of time, temporary but proud. Their stems gradually become thinner, and one day the cap will collapse. They live for hundreds of thousands of years, but they are still doomed. Just like the ocean, just like civilization, only memory in stones, pollen, and sand outlives all else. Are there any other traces left of this ancient civilization? And what can they tell us about a past that we still do not understand? The Florentine diamond. This is a sparkling gem, the legendary Florentine diamond, also known as the Austrian yellow. It weighed 137.45 carats, and it impressed not only with its size, but also with its unusual yellowish hue. According to legend, the diamond first belonged to the influential Medici family, and then ended up in the hands of the Habsburg dynasty, where it became part of the imperial regalia. For a long time, the Florentine was kept in the royal treasury in Vienna and was considered one of the most valuable gems in Europe. However, after the collapse of Austria-Hungary in 1918, its whereabouts became unknown. The stone was allegedly taken to South America, and according to rumors, was later split into several smaller diamonds to make it easier to sell and to hide its origin. To this day, it is unknown where the parts of the Florentine are, if it was indeed divided. Its history is shrouded in secrets and mysteries, and the diamond itself has become a symbol of the lost splendor of European dynasties. Perhaps it still lies today in some private safe, waiting for its reappearance. 3 amazing artifacts. Archaeologists have made a discovery that could change our understanding of the history of ancient Egypt. Recently, the lost tomb of Pharaoh Thutmose II was found, an event comparable to the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922. However, unlike the famous tomb of the Golden Boy, the tomb of Thutmose II was found to be heavily damaged. After the pharaoh's death, the chamber was flooded and most of the relics were likely moved to another location. One of the key artifacts is fragments of alabaster vessels decorated with the name of Thutmose II. These jars, shaped like a duck, were used in rituals and indicated the high status of their owner. The inscription on them helped confirm that the tomb really belonged to this pharaoh. Another important find was fragments of paintings that had fallen from the ceiling and walls. Researchers discovered that the ceiling was once painted blue and covered with stars, while the walls were decorated with texts from the Book of Amduat, an ancient Egyptian text describing the god's journey through the afterlife. Such images were found only in the tombs of pharaohs and high-ranking nobles close to the pharaoh. Another artifact found was a wooden rod, which could have been part of a spear or a ceremonial fan used to fan the pharaoh. An inscription with the king's title on the shaft further proved the tomb belonged to Thutmose II. Remains of Jesus' brother. In Israel, a 2,000-year-old ossuary was discovered with an inscription: James, son of Joseph, brother of Jesus. This sparked fierce debates. It is possible that the box held the remains of James the Just, the first bishop of Jerusalem and the brother of Jesus. Today, this artifact is on display in Atlanta among 350 ancient relics from the time of Christ. However, its authenticity remains in question. The owner of the ossuary, collector Oded Golan, was accused of forging the inscription, with claims that he added the phrase, brother of Jesus. But after years of legal proceedings, the charges were dropped, although the judge clarified that this does not prove the authenticity of the artifact. If the inscription is genuine, the ossuary would become the oldest physical evidence of the existence of Jesus. In the 1st century, Jews stored the bones of the deceased in limestone boxes, so the discovery of such an ossuary is not surprising. In 2017, another artifact was found related to him, an ancient text, the first Apocalypse of James. It says that Jesus gave his brother secret knowledge, including predictions of his death. This text was banned because it did not conform to the canonical New Testament. The mysterious grave, 157. During excavations in the eastern part of Croatia, in the settlement of Račiša, archaeologists discovered a mysterious medieval burial, which was named Grave 157. It attracted attention because of its unusual location and terrifying ritual features. The tomb was located under the floor of an ancient church along the southern wall, and massive stones were placed on the remains of the deceased, which, according to researchers, might have been put there specifically to prevent his possible resurrection. This fact, as well as the unusual position of the body, led to the suggestion that the burial was connected to a belief in vampires. Anthropological analysis showed that the remains belonged to a man aged 40 to 50 years who performed hard physical labor during his lifetime. However, the most mysterious thing is the deliberate damage to the skeleton. His torso was facing down, and his head was separated from his body. Such unusual burial practices have previously been found in Europe and are often associated with the fear of the dead coming back to life. The historical context also adds special significance to the discovery. The settlement of Račiša existed from the 13th to the 16th century and initially belonged to the Templars, then to the Order of Hospitallers, and later passed into the hands of the local nobility. Over 15 years, archaeologists have discovered 180 burials here. In some graves, traces of unusual burial rituals were found, including decapitated bodies and dislocated bones, which indicate ancient superstitions and fears. Analysis of historical sources confirms that even after the adoption of Christianity in Slavic countries, belief in evil spirits continued to persist. The ancient labyrinth of sites, which are mainly on the ground, as well as remote sensing, provide archaeology with new tools for understanding the past. One striking example is the study of the surroundings of Rujm el-Hiri, an ancient complex of stone circles to the northeast of the Sea of Galilee. This mysterious monument clearly shows how satellite images allow us to look at the landscape from a completely different perspective. Scientists analyzed photos of the area within a 30-kilometer radius and discovered numerous megalithic structures, massive circles with thick walls, and mysterious flower-shaped enclosures near rivers. According to one hypothesis, all of them could have been used for navigation, defense, or livestock enclosures. In addition, the images show burial mounds of various shapes and sizes. These could possibly be burial sites or signal mounds. The results of geological measurements are no less intriguing. It seems that the territory itself has shifted over the past millennium, which has cast doubt on the hypothesis about the astronomical purpose of Rujm el-Hiri. The satellite image captures the multi-layered nature of the construction, an archaeological palimpsest, where later structures were built on top of earlier ones. Such studies open a door to the distant past. By comparing satellite data, excavation results, and geophysical analyses, scientists hope to reconstruct the life of the ancient inhabitants of the Levant, and to better understand why they built such monumental stone labyrinths and surrounded them with complex agricultural systems. The discovery has rewritten the history of alcohol. The process of alcohol distillation goes much further back than previously thought. But excavations in the tomb of Liu He, the 9th emperor of the Western Han Dynasty, showed that 2,000 years ago in China, they already knew how to produce distillate. Scientists found a bronze vessel called the Heavenly Pot, which served as a key part of devices for distilling wine. Before that, historical texts indicated the appearance of such technologies only during the Yuan dynasty, that is, 1,000 years later. Liu He, despite his short reign, left behind an impressive legacy. In addition to the distiller itself, the oldest painting of Confucius was found in his tomb, as well as thousands of pieces of armor made of iron, copper, and lacquered leather. All of this testifies to the high level of craftsmanship during the Western Han period. An experiment with a replica bronze vessel showed a distillation efficiency exceeding 70% while preserving the taste and aroma of the beverage. It was originally believed that this vessel could have been used for perfumes or medicine, but now it is clear its main purpose was alcohol production. The results of the study help us better understand the evolution of brewing and distillation practices, complementing historical records and revealing the potential of early Chinese inventors. Stationary objects underwater. There are many immobile, anomalous objects hidden in the world's oceans that still remain a mystery to scientists. Even if we set aside myths, such as the legends of Atlantis, the list of interesting discoveries still remains impressive. One of the most famous is the Yanagwi Monument, located near the Ryukyu Islands, not far from Unaguni, Japan. These are stone structures located at a shallow depth, which have regular geometric shapes. Although most scientists consider them to be natural geological formations, many researchers and pseudo-archaeologists try to prove that these stones are the result of human activity. Another mystery is the megalith found at the bottom of the Pantelleria Vecchia Bank in the Tunisian Strait. It is a huge stone, 12 meters long and weighing 15 tons with 3 round holes in it. Based on its structure, it is believed that it was shaped by humans in the Mesolithic period, about 12 to 15,000 years ago. However, analysis of the rock has shown that its age may be much greater, over 40,000 years, which casts doubt on its origin. The Cuban underwater city is another mysterious discovery made in 2001 off the western coast of Cuba. Using sonar, geometric structures were discovered that resemble pyramids and rings made of granite blocks. These findings have raised many questions among researchers, as they could be either natural formations or the result of human activity. These and other objects remain the subject of active research and discussion, as their origin could reveal much that is unknown about ancient civilizations and the nature of the ocean depths. A cemetery 3,000 kilometers long. From 1840 to 1860, hundreds of thousands of settlers headed west along the so-called Oregon Trail, a route about 3,200 kilometers long from the banks of the Missouri to the Willamette Valley. They crossed endless prairies, arid steppes, and formidable mountain passes, often spending more than half a year on the road. The journey was full of hardships. Lack of food, thirst, disease, and unpredictable weather claimed the lives of many before they even reached their destination. Historically, this region, called the Oregon Country, belonged to Great Britain. However, after acquiring Louisiana and successfully migrating to new lands, America laid claim to it. The first expeditions of Lewis and Clark and the fur trader John Astor paved the way, but it was only in 1836 that the first wagons with settler families set out on the Western Trail. By 1843, about 1,000 migrants had already formed the famous wagon train of the Great Migration, proving that it was possible to overcome such a dangerous route. However, the road could easily turn into a real nightmare. Swift rivers overturned wagons, cholera and typhoid fever mercilessly claimed lives, and careless handling of weapons led to tragedy. According to statistics, up to 10 graves were left on every mile of the trail, and now they say that the Oregon Trail is the longest cemetery in the world. Many of the monuments along it are nameless because burials had to be done in haste, sometimes packing down the earth with wagon wheels so that predators wouldn't find the remains. Thus, the legends and myths of conquering the Wild West are closely intertwined with the stories of dramatic human destinies. Something alive beyond the Great Wall of China. The Great Wall of China, built during the Ming Dynasty between 1368 and 1644, stretches for more than 21,000 kilometers and continues to amaze scientists. Over the past 5 centuries, about a third of the wall has been destroyed, but a significant part of the structure still stands. Research has shown that living cement plays a key role in maintaining its strength. Rammed earth, which includes soil and gravel, was used in the construction. New research has revealed that the strength of the wall is affected by a biocrust, a layer formed by the growth of cyanobacteria mosses, and lichens. These organisms form a structure similar to cement, increasing the wall's resistance to erosion and damage. Out of 8 studied sections of the Ming-era wall, 67% contained biocrusts. By comparing the strength and stability of rammed earth with biocrust, scientists found that it significantly reduces porosity and salinity, decreases erosion, and increases compressive and shear strength. This living cement apparently makes the Great Wall of China more resistant to climate change and natural wear, highlighting the importance of biological processes in preserving historical monuments. The government is secretly contacting aliens. Recently, there have been reports about UFOs, including from Mexico, where alleged alien remains were found. It turned out these were just dummies, but rumors about UFOs continue to spread online. Some people believe the planet is controlled by mysterious forces, while others see it as a distraction from real problems. Interest in UFOs was also fueled by former U.S. Navy Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet, who claimed that the American government is connected with a non-human intelligence. According to him, this is kept secret in order to hide top-secret technologies that could provide an advantage in a military conflict. He is urging the release of information on contact with non-human intelligence. On the other hand, Elon Musk is skeptical about the idea of the existence of aliens in our part of the galaxy. He believes that in the next couple of hundred years, humanity will not be able to reach vast distances in space, and that aliens are unlikely to be interested in a small planet on the edge of the galaxy. Musk is convinced that human consciousness is a unique phenomenon, and it needs to be preserved. These statements by influential figures fuel interest in the UFO topic, even though they don't provide concrete facts. It's amazing that in ancient times, people were interested in alien objects and saw UFOs and extraterrestrials everywhere. As the saying goes, there's no smoke without fire. Therefore, it's impossible to be 100% sure that there are no alien objects or beings on our planet. What do you think? Write your opinion in the comments below the video. Could the U.S. government have any contact with extraterrestrial life nowadays?
Металлический стержень.
Can you explain this mysterious artifact? Inside the Mazong stone found in the Chinese mountains, collector Jilin Wang discovered a metal rod with threads resembling a screw. But what's most strange is that solid rock formed around it, which suggests that the find could be millions of years old. Some have suggested that it's a meteorite with an alien artifact inside. Others believe that it's an ancient man-made object that, for unknown reasons, ended up in the ground and turned into a fossil. Skeptics, on the other hand, believe that it's just a rare natural formation, and the screw is simply a fossilized marine organism. What's most interesting is that similar discoveries have been found worldwide. Is this coincidence or evidence of unknown ancient technology? For now, this artifact remains one of the most mysterious archaeological enigmas. The oldest book in Europe. In January 1962, during excavations near the village of Usalonik, Greek archaeologists discovered an ancient papyrus in the funeral pyre of a noble Macedonian. This scroll, dated to around 340-320 BC, became the first of its kind found in mainland Greece. Since the manuscript is of a literary nature, UNESCO recognized it as the oldest known book in Europe. The discovered scroll was named the Derveni Papyrus, after the place where it was found. It contains reflections on religious rituals related to the fate of the soul after death, and discussions about a lost poetic text attributed to the legendary Orpheus, the singer and musician from Greek myths. Researchers believe that the unknown author belonged to the circle of followers of the philosopher Anaxagoras and wrote for the adepts of Orphism, a special religious movement, presumably monotheistic, and focused on the purification of the soul. The fire from the funeral pyre preserved the papyrus fragments from damp soil, but also seriously damaged them. Scientists managed to extract about 266 charred pieces and later assembled them into 26 columns of text without the lower halves of the lines. A full publication of the deciphered manuscript appeared only half a century later. A stone more valuable than gold. In 2015, in Australia's Maryborough Park, David Hole found a reddish-brown stone, thinking it was gold. He tried to break it with a sledgehammer and drill a hole in it, but he couldn't. 3 years later, he took it to the Melbourne Museum. Geologists Henry and Birch identified it as a meteorite that was 4.6 billion years old. They were impressed by its appearance and weight. The meteorite turned out to be an ordinary H5 chondrite, containing crystals and a lot of iron. The researchers noted that such meteorites help to study space by indicating the age and composition of the solar system. Some even contain stardust older than the meteorites themselves. Radiocarbon analysis showed that the meteorite landed on Earth about 100,000 years ago. Why do you think meteorites are so rarely found on Earth despite their abundance in space? The oldest fortresses on the planet. Traditionally, we thought that complex defensive structures appeared only with the development of agriculture. But now, things are different. In Siberia, 10 fortifications built by hunter-gatherers have been found, which are up to 8,000 years old. These settlements, located on riverbanks, were protected by earthen ramparts and wooden palisades. The ancient inhabitants of this area not only hunted and fished, but also created ceramic vessels for storage. Their ability to build serious fortifications testifies to the incredible complexity of their lives. Many believe that permanent settlements with fortifications appeared in agricultural societies, but this discovery disproves that theory. It turns out that even hunter-gatherers could create complex societies. The abundance of resources in the Siberian taiga likely played a key role in the emergence of these settlements. These fortifications may have been used to control and efficiently utilize local resources. There's no one to eat the corpses. The Zoroastrian Tower of Silence on Malabar Hill, a sacred place for the Parsi community, is under threat due to the declining vulture population in the area. These birds play a key role in the ritual of Dakmenashini, exposing the bodies of the dead so they can return to nature. However, the decline in scavenger numbers in Mumbai, which began in 2015, has put this ancient tradition at risk. The Tower of Silence, or Dakma, which is over 300 years old, is a circular structure symbolizing eternity in the Zoroastrian faith. It is located on a 22-hectare forested area. The outer circle of the tower is for men, the middle for women, and the inner for children. Before placing the body in the Dakma, relatives pray in special structures called bungli, and then the remains are carried to the Kandi by special attendants. According to Zoroastrian traditions, contact with a dead body is considered defilement, and vultures play an important role in ensuring cleanliness and maintaining the natural balance. But urbanization, changes in habitat, and environmental problems have led to a sharp decline in the number of these birds. The process of body decomposition has slowed down, which has created difficulties in performing the ritual. Human remains over 1 million years old. Archaeologists discovered unique remains of an ancient human who lived about 1,400,000 years ago in the Spanish cave of Cima del Elefante. The discovered skull fragment is the oldest ever found in Western Europe and represents a previously unknown human species to science. The discovered part of the face, nicknamed Pink by scientists after the band Pink Floyd, preserved the left cheek and upper jaw with teeth. According to experts, this ancient human was very different from the later inhabitants of the region, known as Homo antecessor. For example, Pink had a flatter nose shape, more reminiscent of Homo erectus, the first species to leave Africa about 1,800,000 years ago. At that time, the climate of Europe was much milder, and the valleys in the Cima del Elefante area were covered with dense forests and inhabited by hippos, bison, and deer. A 2,500-year-old helmet and Dacian treasures. This golden helmet is one of the most famous artifacts of Dacian culture, dating back to around 450 BC. It is known as the helmet from Kotsufinishti and is considered not only a work of ancient jewelry art, but also a symbol of power and ritual strength. Adorned with eyes, snakes, and mythological scenes, it may have belonged to a priest or a leader who played a sacred role in Dacian society. The helmet seems to gaze at enemies, instilling fear and protecting its owner. On January 25, 2025, this helmet became the victim of a daring robbery. Several unique exhibits were stolen from the Drenthe Museum in Assen, Netherlands, where the Land of Gold and Silver exhibition was being held, including the helmet and 3 royal Dacian bracelets. All the items came from the National History Museum of Romania. The loss of these artifacts was a real blow to cultural heritage. Meteorites help win lotteries. In 2015, a bright meteor streaked across the sky over the Thai city of Kanchanaburi, lighting up the sky with green and orange flashes. Since then, there have been rumors that its fragments scattered around the area. In fact, meteors have visited Thailand more than once in recent years, leaving behind black stones that people believe have magical powers. The most famous story comes from Phathalung province. A married couple from Siripu Vedon discovered strange boulders weighing up to 20 kilograms in a palm plantation. At night, lightning struck the garden, and in the morning the couple saw burning pits and mysterious fragments inside them. After bringing the gift from the sky home, they soon felt a surge of energy and noticed that they became less tired. Curious neighbors noticed unusual patterns on the surface of the stones, mistaking them for lucky lottery numbers. In Thailand, this is a popular pastime. Although they didn't win big, their belief in the special properties only grew stronger. Now, people often visit the owners to absorb cosmic energy, and some are even thinking about making money from such relics. This cult of celestial stones shows how a natural phenomenon can turn into a mystical event, reflecting the longing for miracles and the desire to connect with the mysteries of the cosmos. The gates through which death passed. On the southwestern coast of Sicily, archaeologists have uncovered not just ruins, but an entirely forgotten fragment of an ancient city. 3-meter-high walls, gates, cemeteries, workshops, all of this belonged to the ancient Greek Selinunte. Recently, the northern gates were discovered, through which processions passed to the necropolises. They led to 5,000 burials, from simple graves to rich tombs. And all of this stood on the most vulnerable border of the city. Apparently, ritual and vulnerability were connected. According to the Sicilian dialogue, it was from here that the Carthaginian troops broke into the city. The battle lasted 10 days, and 16,000 defenders of Selinunte were killed. The battlefield is right here, under our feet, and nearby is the cemetery where they were possibly buried. It's amazing how much has been preserved. Ovens, fragments of pottery, remains of craft workshops, and wine storage areas. By the scale and density of the finds, it becomes clear the city lived, traded, had rituals surrounding death, and suffered. And now, 2,500 years later, it is slowly coming back to the surface. The legendary golden horse. Not long ago, news once again spread on social media that near Anapa, Russia, the legendary golden horse of King Mithridates Eupator was supposedly found. It is noteworthy that similar reports had already appeared in 2021, turning out to be an April Fool's joke. However, recent excavations in the area of the village of Anapskaya have revived discussion of this story. During rescue operations at the site of a future kindergarten, archaeologists discovered a burial ground about 2,000 years old. In one of the graves, they found not only human remains, but also those of a horse. In others, there were horse skeletons, glass and ceramic vessels, various beads, as well as weapons and harnesses. The items, including beads made of amber, carnelian, and faience, indicate the local tribe's connections with the ancient world. Among the finds, they noted a scarab, a symbol of rebirth for the ancient Egyptians. Glass vessels, which spread across the Roman Empire's periphery due to improved glass blowing, attracted particular interest. Despite the excitement, there is no direct evidence that this is actually Mithridates' golden horse. Scientists emphasize that legends easily grow, and the rich burial of a noble person can quite possibly acquire fantastic features over time. Ancient Roman cellar in Germany. In March 2023, archaeologists in Frankfurt am Main made a truly sensational discovery. During excavations in the historic Heddernheim district, researchers came across a uniquely preserved fragment of a Roman house, a wooden staircase leading to a cellar, almost 2,000 years old. This seems incredible since wood very rarely survives for so long, especially in an urban environment. Heddernheim is a district with a rich history. Once the ancient Roman city of Nida was located here, founded during the reign of Emperor Augustus. Later, in 110 AD, Emperor Trajan made it the capital of the Civitas Taunensium region. The city flourished. Its population reached 10,000 people, but already in the 3rd century, due to attacks by Germanic tribes, it began to decline and was eventually abandoned. In the 20th century, most traces of Nida vanished. Old houses were dismantled and cellars destroyed during construction. That's why the discovery of a wooden staircase and floor in a Roman cellar is a real miracle. The object was in excellent condition, and archaeologists decided to preserve it. The Cypriot Terracotta Army. In November 1929, a priest named Procopius from the village of Agia Irene near Morphu was working in a field when he accidentally came across a clay figurine of a person. Realizing the value of the find, he protected it from looting and informed the scientists. Thus began the story of the Cypriot Terracotta Army, a unique open-air sanctuary where about 2,000 clay statues were arranged in a semicircle around the altar. According to the Swedish Archaeological expedition, among the statues there were warriors in armor, chariots, figures of bulls, and even bronze miniatures. Professor Theodoros Mavroyiannis dates the main finds to 650-620 BC, pointing to the details of the clothing and the political situation in the Mediterranean at that time. Out of the 2,000 statues found, 1,500 are now kept in the Stockholm Museum of Mediterranean and Near Eastern Antiquities, and the rest are in the Cyprus Museum in Nicosia. Most residents of Cyprus consider the removal of the artifacts to be looting and demand that they be returned to their homeland. The mysterious drink in the jug. In China, the oldest distilled alcohol, over 3,000 years old, has been found. This rare liquid, discovered in a bronze vessel from the Shang dynasty, proves that distillation technology appeared in China much earlier than previously thought. The owl-shaped vessel was found in 2010 in tomb M257 in Doxingzhuang, Shandong province. Due to corrosion, it could not be opened immediately. Only in 2024, after careful restoration, were researchers able to look inside. To their surprise, the vessel contained a clear liquid that was preserved thanks to the tight sealing. Analysis at the laboratory of Shandong University confirmed that it was distilled liquor. It did not contain sugars or organic acids typical of fermented wine, but had a neutral pH of 5.8. This distinguishes it from previously known alcoholic beverages of the Neolithic era and the Zhou dynasty. A lost fragment of a Bible translation. Austrian scientists made a remarkable discovery in the Vatican Library, a new chapter of the Bible, in a translation of the Gospel of Matthew, dated 1750. The text, invisible to the naked eye, was discovered thanks to the use of ultraviolet photography. This discovery became part of a research project aimed at restoring texts that were erased or rewritten by scribes between the 4th and 12th centuries AD. Manuscripts of this kind, called palimpsests, were created by reusing already used material. This was due to a shortage of writing materials. With the help of ultraviolet light, it was possible to reveal the lost texts. Among the 74 restored manuscripts, there was one especially valuable ancient version of the Bible, which is 100 years older than the earliest Greek translations, including the Codex Sinaiticus. The new text adds to the well-known verse about how Jesus' disciples plucked the ears of grain and adds, "They rubbed them in their hands and ate." This discovery is an important contribution to the understanding of ancient Syriac texts and the study of ancient writing. The mysterious disappearance at the lighthouse. The lighthouse is a place that always evokes a sense of loneliness and anxiety. The story of the disappearance of 3 lighthouse keepers from the Flannan Isles has become a real mystical mystery, attracting the attention of fans of unexplained phenomena. It all began in 1900 when a helicopter crew went to Eilean Moor, part of the Flannan Isles, to check on the operation of the lighthouse and its keepers, Thomas Marshall, James Ducat, and Donald MacArthur. When they arrived, they found that no one was there, as if the men had simply vanished. Inside the lighthouse, they found an overturned chair, untouched food on the table, and the clocks had stopped. The ship's log reported that there was a severe storm in the area, but there were no reports of it in the surrounding regions. Based on this, it was assumed that the keepers died, swept away by the sea while doing their work, but the lack of blood or other evidence led to many mystical theories. Some believe that Eilean Moor Island has a sinister aura that affects people and makes them lose their minds. The mysterious disappearance, the lack of logical explanations, and the strange details made this story the basis for legends that speak of supernatural forces and even aliens. The lack of concrete facts only fuels mystical theories, leaving more questions than answers. A message from space. In the Inga River in Brazil lies the mysterious Inga stone in the state of Paraíba, which has sparked much debate in the archaeological community. Unknown geometric symbols are carved on the surface of this 46-meter gneiss stone. The origin and meaning of these symbols remain undiscovered to this day. What do you think? Do they testify to a forgotten civilization, or are they a message from our ancestors? This stone is at least 6,000 years old. There are other stones and caves with carvings nearby, but they are not as interesting. Archaeologist Gabriel Beraldi discovered the first Inga cave in 1988. In total, he studied 497 symbols on the cave walls. Most of them are mysterious, but some definitely depict cosmic objects, such as the Milky Way and the constellation Orion. Some scientists see similarities with ancient Phrygian and Egyptian scripts, while others compare them to runes. The study of the symbols has shown that they may be connected to ancient beliefs, such as the cult of fertility. One of the researchers suggested that the Inga stone might contain an ancient solar calendar. Other hypotheses suggest contacts with extraterrestrial civilizations, or even ancient formulas or mathematical equations. Over 100,000 years old. Researchers continue to uncover the mysteries of our evolution after discovering unusual footprints, 115,000 years old, in the northern part of Saudi Arabia. The footprints, preserved in a former mud pit in the middle of the Nafud Desert, amaze scientists because they appeared in a place where such ancient human traces were not expected to be found. According to estimates, these footprints belong to early representatives of Homo sapiens, not Neanderthals, which confirms the migration routes of humans in changing climate conditions. Thanks to a remarkable combination of factors, the absence of strong winds, and the peculiarities of the local climate, the structure of the footprints remained almost intact, allowing scientists to accurately date them and reconstruct the scene of a brief stop by ancient people at Lake Alatar during a dry period. This place seems to have served as a rest and watering point rather than a permanent settlement, as indicated by the absence of traces of tools or hunting. Some scientists believe that these footprints fit into the general migration route along which Homo sapiens moved from Africa to Eurasia. The new discoveries change our view of migration routes and vividly demonstrate how nature is able to carefully preserve the chronicle of life. A story that's not in the textbooks. Not so long ago, archaeologists found evidence that in ancient Troy, long before the Iliad was written, people were already drinking wine. This is not just a theory or a guess, but real chemical evidence that confirmed that even ordinary people in the territory of Troy not only drank wine, but also used it in their everyday lives. For researchers, this was a sensation because in ancient times, usually only the elite could afford the luxury of drinking wine. But in Troy, it was available to all social classes. Research has shown that the cult of wine was so important to the inhabitants of Troy that the vessels in which it was drunk were found throughout the city, from wealthy palaces to simple residential quarters. But what's even more interesting is that the fermentation method used in Troy was so unique that it resembled those of more complex and advanced civilizations of that time. And now, thanks to this research, we can confidently say Troy was not just a legend, it was real, and its culture was much more complex and progressive than we could have imagined. The Thunderstone. In 1782, the famous monument to Peter I, the Bronze Horseman, was erected in St. Petersburg. Much has been written about its creation, but the pedestal of the statue, known as the Thunderstone, is itself a unique engineering achievement. This giant granite monolith was found not far from St. Petersburg in the village of Konayalakta. Originally, it was 13 meters long, 8 meters high, and 6 meters wide. Its weight reached 2,000 tons. Transporting such a giant in the 18th century without cranes and excavators was an incredible task. It was decided to move it in winter, using the frozen ground and ice. The stone was placed on wooden sledges, and copper balls were put underneath them, which rolled along a specially prepared path. Hundreds of workers used winches and ropes to move it toward the Gulf of Finland. This stage alone took 4 months. Then the monolith was loaded onto a barge and delivered to Petersburg. However, during transportation and subsequent processing, it was significantly reduced in size. Out of 2,000 tons, only 1,200 remained. The Thunderstone is the largest monolith in history that was moved by hand. Even the ancient blocks of Baalbek were left in place. This granite giant became part of one of Russia's most recognizable monuments. Hidden among medieval history, Iceland is famous for its rich literary tradition that dates back to the Middle Ages. Here, on an island with a population of only 380,000 people, many write books, following traditions that were formed back in the Viking era. Scholars believe that skalds, Icelandic poets, not only praised the kings of Norway, but also laid the foundation for epic prose and extensive collections of knowledge. Medieval texts, from royal sagas to theological treatises, were written on expensive parchment made from calfskin, called vellum. When a book became old, its materials were often reused. The text was scraped off for new writings, or scraps were used to make covers, and sometimes even church mitres. In particularly rare cases, palimpsests appeared, parchments where the old text was erased or scraped off, and a new one was written in its place. This practice became especially widespread after the Reformation in the 16th century, when Latin services were replaced with services in Icelandic. Beneath the new writing, parts of the old text often remain visible, and modern methods can reveal secrets from the past.
Тайна, которую знали.
In 2002, declassified CIA documents were made public. One of them was simply titled Report on Noah's Ark. It mentions a strange object on the slope of Mount Ararat. The formation resembles the hull of a huge ship. Rumors about this place have been circulating since the mid-20th century. But here's what's strange. The CIA conducted aerial reconnaissance, and then they brought in satellites, all for the sake of this anomaly. According to the official version, nothing special was found in the images, but dozens of requests to publish the footage, especially the footage from 1974, were denied. Why hide the images if there's nothing on them? Later, researchers collected soil samples from this place. They found marine organisms in them. But Mount Ararat is at an altitude of 4,420 meters. Does this mean that water really was here? The same water from the biblical flood? It might seem like just a coincidence, but there are just too many such coincidences. For too long, people have tried to avoid this place. Underground tunnels of Cusco. In Peru, mysterious underground Inca tunnels were found, stretching for almost 2 kilometers. The discovery was made by archaeologists studying the ancient city of Cusco. The tunnels connected the Sacsayhuaman fortress, the Temple of the Sun, and an important religious structure. The structures, made of massive stones, impress with their strength and engineering skill. They are able to withstand severe damage typical for the region. Scientists are confident that the Incas used these hidden passages for the secret movement of priests and military leaders between strategic and ritual sites. Despite the legends about treasures, nothing has been found inside so far. There are only 23 of these in the world. Archaeologists in Turkey have found unique artifacts about 800 years old in Hasankeyf, one of the oldest settlements in Batman. Among them are a rare healing bowl and 2 archery rings. The thumb rings are made of agate and bone. The healing bowl, one of only 23 like it in the world, was used in the medieval Islamic world to protect against bites from animals such as dogs, snakes, and scorpions. It is made of bronze decorated with talismans, seals, and verses. This reflects the folk medicine practices of that time. Thumb rings used in archery protected the fingers from the bowstring. One of them was found near a shrine, which gives it special significance. These findings have now been transferred to the Hasankeyf Museum and represent important evidence of ancient practices and beliefs, shedding light on the cultural features of the Islamic world related to folk medicine and archery. The preserved body. In 1719, at the Falun copper mine in Sweden, miners made a grim discovery. From a flooded section, they brought out the body of a man without legs, but it was surprisingly well preserved. Judging by his clothes and appearance, it seemed that he had died just a few days ago. It looked very strange, considering that the abandoned mine had not been used for many years. The body was put on public display, hoping to find relatives or acquaintances. Soon, Margareta Olsdater appeared, claiming that the man before her was her fiancé, who had disappeared 42 years ago. When the water was pumped out, it turned out that the deceased had been soaked in a solution of vitriol, which preserved his remains from rapid decomposition. However, as the body dried, the natural preservation caused it to become petrified and then to deteriorate. Unfortunately, the fate of the unfortunate man did not end with a simple burial. The local residents, shocked by such a rare phenomenon, kept his body on display for the public for another 30 years. Only then was he buried in a church. After some time, during another reconstruction, the body was discovered again. This time, they decided to finally lay him to rest in the city cemetery. The Great Bell of Damazedi.
Великий кол
Damazedi is considered the largest bell ever made. It was cast in 1484 by order of the Myanmar king Damazedi and installed at the famous Shwedagon Pagoda in Yangon, one of the most sacred places for Buddhists in the country. According to historical records, the bell weighed over 290 tons, making it a record holder among such structures. However, the fate of the bell turned out to be tragic. In 1608, the Portuguese mercenary and adventurer Felipe de Brito captured Yangon and decided to take the bell away to melt it down for weapons. While moving it across the Bago River, he misjudged the weight. The bell overturned the barge and sank. Since then, it has never been found despite numerous attempts. Today, the Great Damazedi Bell remains part of Myanmar's legends and a source of national pride. Its story is a reminder of how culture, spirituality, and greed can intertwine in a single artifact, the fate of which remains a mystery to this day. A very valuable discovery. In August, the Canadian mining company Lucara Diamond Corporation announced the discovery of what is considered the second largest diamond in the world. It weighs 2,492 carats. The stone was found in the Karawi mine in Botswana, where another record-breaking diamond, Lesedi Larona, weighing 1,109 carats, was previously found in 2015 and sold for $53 million 2 years later. The largest diamond in the world remains the famous Cullinan, weighing 3,106 carats, discovered in South Africa in 1905. To extract such impressive stones, the company used a specially designed tool, the Mega Diamond Recovery System, based on X-ray transmission. This technology is designed to search for and extract huge precious stones that remain hidden deep within the earth. The deepest, oldest tunnel. In China, they want to reach rocks from the Cretaceous period, which are 140 million years old. It's an ambitious goal. They plan to cut through 10 layers of earth and reach a depth of 11,000 meters, which will be a national record. The work started in May of this year. While in Russia they want to resume work on the Kola Super Deep borehole, China is already actively drilling. Let me remind you that although the Soviet Kola borehole project was not completed, it made important scientific discoveries and planned to drill the Earth to a depth of more than 15,000 meters. Work on the Kola Peninsula began in 1970 and continued for 2 decades. At a depth of 7 kilometers, the team had to deal with difficulties. The layered rocks would get stuck in the equipment. Despite this, they managed to reach the final depth of 12,226 meters, but in 1990 the project had to be shut down due to an unknown explosion. Now China is striving to continue studying the Earth's interior and plans to use its new borehole to study earthquakes and predict their occurrence. Another goal of the project is to gain a deeper understanding of the Earth's internal structure and its evolution. This opens up new opportunities for developing technologies and solutions that can be applied in various industries. Let's hope that China, with its modern technologies, will be able to find something interesting for archaeology as well. The mythical giant, the Cardiff Giant, a supposed petrified man 3 meters tall, was discovered in 1869 by workers digging a well in Cardiff, New York. The giant was actually a hoax made from a block of gypsum. It was brought to a farm in Cardiff, where it was buried for a year before being discovered by workers. The idea to create the giant belonged to George Hull, who wanted to prove the gullibility of the public and take advantage of people's religious belief in giant humans mentioned in the Bible. After the giant was found, it drew massive attention, and spectators paid for the opportunity to see it. The famous showman Barnum offered to buy the giant, but was refused. Then he created his own copy and claimed that his version was genuine, and the original was a fake. In 1870, both giants were recognized as fakes, but the Cardiff giant went down in history as one of the greatest hoaxes of the 19th century. Dinosaur Road. At the Dwars Farm Quarry in Oxfordshire, United Kingdom, scientists uncovered about 200 dinosaur tracks left more than 166 million years ago. An international team from the universities of Oxford and Birmingham studied this site in June 2024, trying to understand exactly how the ancient reptiles moved and interacted with each other. Particular interest was drawn to 5 main trackways, which formed a kind of dinosaur trail. 4 of them belonged to large herbivorous sauropods, including Cetiosaurus, a relative of Diplodocus, a dinosaur up to 18 meters long. Another trackway was left by a roughly 9-meter-long Megalosaurus, a formidable predator with 3-toed clawed feet. In one area, the tracks of a herbivore and a predator crossed in the mud, giving a unique opportunity to find out whether their paths could intersect not only in time, but also in space. Paleontologists note the excellent condition of the fossilized tracks. The impressions show deformations of the ground under the weight of the feet. This makes it possible to estimate the size of the dinosaurs and to reconstruct the conditions of the ancient lagoon, where traces of burrows, shells, and plant remains were found. To capture all the details, the researchers took 20,000 photographs and created 3D models using drones. The most terrifying tribe. Traveler and blogger Daniel Pinto caused a real shock by publishing a video with the Vitovi tribe from Papua New Guinea. In the video, which has gathered over 17 million views, he shows a meeting with the silent members of the tribe guarding the sacred waterfall. The Vitovi people are dressed in costumes made of mud and clay, and their masks resemble spirit birds with long noses and fierce expressions. They guard the waterfall from outsiders and are intimidating, but viewers have questioned the video's authenticity. Some commenters claim that the most fearsome tribe would never let a blogger get so close. Others joke that their costumes look like fashionable outfits. Despite controversy, the video has drawn tourists' attention to the region. Now, travel agencies mention Vitovi as a tourist destination, offering guests eco-lodges and an introduction to the tribe's culture. And what do you think? Is this tribe real or just another way to attract naive tourists? Write your opinion in the comments below the video. The mysterious harpy. The Queen of the Night relief, created around 1800 BC, is one of the most mysterious artifacts of Mesopotamia. Also known as the Burney relief, it depicts a winged goddess with bird claws instead of feet, standing on the backs of 2 lions. On either side of her are owls, symbolizing power over the darkness of night and the spirit world. The identity of the depicted goddess remains a subject of debate. Some researchers believe that this is Ishtar, Inanna, the Babylonian goddess of love, war, and fertility. Others suggest that the relief depicts Ereshkigal, the grim mistress of the underworld, sister of Ishtar. The symbolism of the relief points to the power and supernatural strength of the goddess. The relief was probably a cult object associated with religious rituals or magical practices. Its rich detailing and monumentality indicate the importance of the deity's image in the beliefs of that era. Today, this artifact is kept in the British Museum. The reliquary box containing relics of Polish monarchs. This elegant box inscribed with Izabela Czartoryska is not just an antique but a true symbol of Polish history. In 1800, Princess Izabela Czartoryska assembled a unique collection of relics in it, connected to Polish kings and great historical events. A total of 73 items were kept in the box, ranging from personal belongings of monarchs to fragments of weapons and clothing, symbolizing national heritage and the spirit of resistance. Isabella saw it as her duty to preserve Polish identity during the country's partitions. Her box became part of Poland's first museum, the Temple of Sibyl, established in Puławy, where she invited guests to remind them of the glory of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. Unfortunately, like many national treasures, the box did not escape a tragic fate. In 1939, during the Nazi invasion of Poland, it was looted, and to this day, some of the relics are considered lost. Prison Bakery. In Pompeii, archaeologists excavated an ancient bakery where slaves worked in very harsh conditions. The place also served as a prison, where they, together with donkeys, ground grain for bread in a confined space with small barred windows. The workers added grain and monitored the process while the donkey pushed the millstone. Depressions were found in the floor to coordinate the movement of the workers and animals. Historical records describe the harsh conditions in mills and bakeries. Apuleius, a writer from the 2nd century, mentioned workers with painful injuries and chains on their legs. The conditions were also cruel for the donkeys, which were forced to walk in circles around the clock, causing them to suffer. The bakery was found in the Regio 9 area of Pompeii, where a fresco with flatbread and an electoral inscription had previously been discovered. This is evidence of the hard labor in ancient mill bakeries. The discovery coincides with an upcoming exhibition in Pompeii dedicated to everyday life in the shadow of Vesuvius. The exhibition tells the stories of those who are often left out of history books, including slaves who made up the majority of the population and contributed significantly to the economy and culture of Roman civilization. A road through the ash of southern Italy. During the construction of a gas pipeline, an excavator hits something strange. Under a thin layer of volcanic ash, there are footprints of bare human feet, and next to them, hoof prints. Archaeologists rush to the site and realize before them is a scene of an ancient escape. People, women, children, livestock, all were leaving their homes in a hurry. But this is not Pompeii. It's not the year 79 AD. These footprints are 1,800 years older. Around 1995 BC, the time of the so-called Avellino eruption, one of the most devastating catastrophes of the Bronze Age. Before this, it was believed that almost nothing was known about it. Now we can literally see the route of the people who tried to escape. Their final choices are captured in the hardened ash. Amazingly, centuries later, archaeologists found remains of settlements from 1200 to 1900 BC in the same place, and even Roman structures. The cycle repeats itself. First comes the eruption, then the return. It's as if the land itself won't let us forget. This isn't just a story of disaster. It's about repeating mistakes, about the stubbornness of human hope, about memory, which, like ash, still remains underfoot. A 12th century medieval farm. At Cowfield Farm in England, archaeologists uncovered the story of a medieval farm, known only from 1535 onward. It was protected by a rectangular enclosure and witnessed many changes. Research has shown that the main role of the farm was raising cattle, mostly dairy breeds. The animals were raised and sent to Tewkesbury, providing meat for the local residents and monks. An important element of the farm was a sheep barn, located in the southern part of the site. A new building with a solid stone foundation was built on the site of the old farm, surrounded by a large rectangular moat. Archaeologists discovered that this rectangular structure was divided by a central passage. One part was used for household purposes, while the other served as a hall and bedrooms. Among the finds were a ceramic tray for roasting meat and a pilgrim badge depicting Archangel Michael. A fisherman found a sunken ship. In the summer of 2023, an event occurred that became part of the history of U.S. seafaring. Tim Volok, together with his daughter Henley, who loves fishing, went to Lake Michigan. Henley's goal was to swim near the shores of Green Island while Tim planned to go fishing. On August 13, while making their way along the shore in a boat, they came across wooden debris at the bottom of the lake. Using a fish finder, Tim discovered something underwater that was more than just debris. After posting the fish finder photo on social media, he attracted the interest of experts from the Wisconsin Historical Society. Specialists using a remotely operated underwater device found out that George Newman, a wooden sailing ship built in 1855, rests at the bottom of the lake. The ship, which was engaged in transporting lumber, got into trouble in 1871 because of the Great Peshtigo Fire, which destroyed the city of Peshtigo and claimed the lives of about 1,200 people. George Newman, caught in the fire zone, was engulfed in thick smoke and ran aground. Thanks to the lighthouse keeper, the ship's crew was able to escape, leaving the vessel to its fate. Over time, the ship was covered with sand, and its remains were discovered at a depth of 23 meters. This video has come to an end, but you can watch my previous videos on the channel. They are just as interesting as this one. Leave your kind comments under the video. It helps the channel grow. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, everyone.